For tonight's show, we needed to record this before our regular intro. Before the recording of tonight's show, we did hear some news from the Total Soccer Show, a show that actually was very inspirational from us in terms of even starting this show. One of the hosts of the Total Soccer Show, Daryl Grove, announced he's having a hard time as he was diagnosed with cancer. A little bit of what we can do from the soccer podcast community for someone who's been so inspirational to us. We've canceled our normal Team of the Month segment. For the month of February, our Team of the Month will be Team Daryl Grove. There's been a GoFundMe that's been set up, and if you go to acrossthepitch.com, right on our homepage where we normally have the Team of the Month is a link to where you can donate to help Daryl out. What is sure to be a difficult and expensive journey for him. This is just our way of trying to help Daryl out, and we definitely wish you well. Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think that Matt Ryan is a quarterback.
Okay. I didn't know Matt Ryan was a quarterback. I know Matty Ryan, who's a goalkeeper for the Socceroos and also for Brighton Hove Albion. Amazing, talented guy. I have to get him on the show at one point, but I have no idea who the quarterback is.
There's Matt Ryan, the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, is Matt with two teams.
Oh, yes. No, you're right. I know. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Matt Ryan, the goaltender, as I like to call them, for the Socceroos, is Matt with one T, and that's how I discern them apart.
It took me a while. I got there. Oh, thanks, Phil. In tonight's show, we witness a public dressing down and a public disgrace. We start a fan club called We Love Callums, and the Across the Pitch curse dies in a ditch. But first, we have some somber news tonight, Phil.
We do have some somber news where there's a bit of a story when we started this podcast. One of our favorite shows that we always listen to is the Total Soccer Show. If you haven't heard it before, their show is on usually about 5 times a week on their website, totalsoccershow.com. It's hosted by two guys, Daryl Grove and Taylor Rockwell. This show, it was a bit of an inspiration for us to actually start our show, and they're very forthcoming with advice. What's the best way to start a podcast? And really, the information that we got from their show was one of the things that really helped us to get started with this show.
Yep.
This evening, I sat down to listen to it and hear what they had to say before we started recording the episode. At the beginning of their show tonight, it was announced by Daryl that he's having some medical issues. And from the Across the Pitch soccer podcast community, we just wanted to wish Daryl get well. And, we look forward to hearing you. We don't miss an episode. And I'm actually a member of their scouting network. If this is something you don't know about, where they actually give you a chance to scout a player and then you send in their scouting report, they read it on the show. That's something that you can actually become a member of on their podcast. My player in the scouting network is actually Arsenal's Emile Smith-Rowe from Arsenal. And today it was announced that in the transfer window, which we're recording this on Wednesday, and tomorrow, Thursday, January 31st, is the last day of the transfer window. We've seen a lot of action today, including Smith-Rowe being loaned to the Bundesliga team RB Leipzig.
Yes, that'll do. That's close enough, mate.
They also recently added the American midfielder Tyler Adams to their squad, so they're currently fourth in Bundesliga. They seem to be kind of trying to make a run for the top with Bayern down a bit. What other big news have we had in the transfer window today?
We've seen a bit of toing and froing with Arsenal. They were looking for Denis Suarez from Barcelona, who hasn't been getting much game time over there. And when I say toing and froing, I think this has been going on now for the best part of, well, forever. They couldn't seem to match up contracts and match up agreements, but it seems like they've finally gotten to some sort of bizarre agreement whereby they can have him on loan at Arsenal from Barcelona, and Barcelona signed him on for another 3 years. I don't quite understand how that works or how that benefits either team. And it certainly doesn't benefit Unai Emery's goal in building up a team structured around his play. Don't know. I find it all a bit odd, actually, that one.
Yeah, I agree. I would have rather seen him just keep Smith Rowe and give him some playing time. I know they're trying to make a run for the top four. It actually moved into fourth today. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Going back to what I was saying about Suarez, so one thing I do know is that the original discussion was that Suarez was going to be a loan to buy. Arsenal didn't want to do the loan with a requirement to buy. They ended up agreeing on a loan without a requirement to buy, but Suarez's contract extension, I guess, was some kind of a part of the loan agreement.
Yeah, it is. I don't get it. And you know what? I'm already cheesed off, Phil.
Cheesed off.
I'm cheesed off. Here you are with the new coach at Arsenal, a new broom, new players coming in, or supposedly new players coming in, and the Arsenal front office are not opening the purse strings to allow Unai Emery the ability to craft a team. This is really, really poor management. This is like penny pinching here from Arsenal, and I'm a little bit cheesed off by this.
But maybe guys' owner is a little too jaded, or he's too caught up in all this Super Bowl madness. Because his Rams are in the Super Bowl this week.
Surely he's got to be thinking, wow, I've got the Rams to the Super Bowl after the first year of trying in LA. Yeah, let's just throw some cash. This seems to be working for me.
Maybe he forgot.
The thing that I do know is that actually Stan Kroenke does not invest any of his own money in the club, and the club is entirely reliant on its own profits.
Oh, so he sounds like the Newcastle owner.
Pretty much, yeah. Mike Ashley.
Yeah, or the Sunderland guy.
Elias Short, yeah.
Elias Short, yeah, that was the same thing he did. But yeah, I saw that. I believe that out of all of the current EFL teams, that I believe it's Stan Kroenke and Middlesbrough's owner are the only ones that have invested $0 of their own money into the club this year.
And that's a disgrace.
Wow.
I think that's an absolute disgrace. How can you compete against the top sides in Europe by not investing? I mean, I just don't get it. I'm at a loss of words, and that's very rare for me.
The other thing that I heard today is, part of the cash problem is obviously the $350,000 a week to Mesut Ozil. Apparently, we were going to send him to PSG for the rest of the season, with Neymar out for 10 weeks with a broken foot, and Ozil declined that.
Interesting.
I'm not exactly sure how that works. If you're out on loan, surely there's still an obligation for the club who is loaning the player to pay their wages. Isn't that part of the deal, Matt? I don't know.
It really just depends on the agreement, the loan deal agreement. So I would imagine that if Arsenal was trying to offload him to PSG and PSG was interested, Arsenal's going to look to either have PSG pay all of his wages or a large amount of his wages.
Right. Oh, okay.
To make it worth it. So it could work out anyway.
Seems like they're the team with the cash, but yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, usually so when clubs will loan players to maybe lower league sides, you'll see more of like a 50-50 split.
Right.
Where a club will say, hey, we'll pay 50% of this guy's wages, you pay the other 50%, and we'll send him there for the year or something.
Right.
I would assume, and I don't know anything about the deal, I haven't read up on this, I would venture to guess if his wages are such a big thing for Arsenal, they were looking for PSG to pay all of it. And I think we all know PSG doesn't have an issue with that because they are backed by a country.
in Mesut Ozil not going to PSG, and we're assuming that this would have given Arsenal some more money to throw around, has to do with what I'm cheesed off about this week.
Cheesed off.
Is it really too much for me to ask to have at least one Belgium player on Arsenal? That's all I've been wanting, is just at least one Belgian player. And cheap-ass Arsenal cannot put the money forward to bring in Yannick Carrasco. And this is a 25-year-old player. This is a guy who's up and coming. This is a guy that fit perfectly with Unai Emery's scheme. He wants to be able to play a wide midfield.
Yes.
This is the player that we needed. I was going to buy a shirt tomorrow.
That might have been the clincher. Did you put that on their Twitter page?
I should have told Kroenke that.
This is not unusual for Arsenal, though, Phil. We're renowned, especially during the Wenger years, especially since 2006 and relocating to the Emirates Stadium. We're renowned for penny pinching. We're buying someone off of Liverpool, or we're looking at it. We wanted to pay £50 million. So that offer was rejected. So they went back with £50 million and £1. It's like, I don't know if you were just being insulting there, or really, we're like, that was just down the back of the couch. That's all we've got, guys.
Probably back at the couch.
I don't get it. It makes me cry.
Chelsea, what have they been doing in the transfer window?
Ooh, good call.
Again, for the second January in a row, a part of a striker carousel. So last year, you guys were involved, and we saw Michy Batshuayi go to Dortmund on loan, and then that freed up Aubameyang to come to Arsenal, which freed up Giroud to come to Chelsea. This year, of course, they made the move for Higuain. We saw AC Milan. Again, they've been spending some money, man. They're really pushing, and they're spending some money. So they brought in Piatek from Genoa, who's just been on fire for Genoa this season. That freed up Higuain to come to Chelsea, which meant a want-away striker, Alvaro Morata, to make his way back to his boyhood club, Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, he's going home to
and
mum.
sign for them.
I find it fascinating, it's this whole transfer business is so intricate, because it's not just a matter of a club fronting up the money and saying we want that guy, because unless the guy wants to move, like Morata wanted to move, or they've got a replacement in mind, chances are that club's not going to sell him for love nor money. It's really, really intricate stuff, and a lot of people I don't think quite understand it, including myself. I'm going to put my hand up and go, you know what? I don't know anything about this bloody thing. All I know is I want that guy. Throw some money at him.
I think that's the interesting thing about the January transfer window. In the summer, you have essentially 2 months. Someone comes out and they say, hey, we're going to give you this much money for this player. You can go, all right, we'll sell you that player. And now we got maybe 3-4 weeks to find a replacement, where in January, that's not the case.
Right.
If Alvaro Morata wants to go to somewhere else, Atletico Madrid, Italy, wherever it was, Chelsea kind of wants to do that because he has lost his confidence. But at the same time, they're saying, well, we need a striker and we only have 2 weeks to find one, and there's games going on. So it makes the January window very intricate.
David De Gea, we mentioned this last week or the week before, I think. He was going to go during the January transfer window, and I think there was right up until like 11:59 or something like that, and they couldn't send it via fax because the fax was broken.
Right.
So
he was going to go to Madrid.
Yeah,
Real,
just bizarre stuff. Yeah.
Broken fax machine, and that was, 4 years ago? So 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, and a fax machine ends it.
Technology's moved along since then.
Yeah, they didn't have email yet, I guess.
Couldn't scan it and email it, huh?
Take a picture with their phone.
Those small clubs like Manchester United and Real Madrid are struggling to put money together to buy a working fax machine.
Seriously, I don't know why they didn't send it out of Staples or whatever it is over there. So, lads, we had a big weekend last weekend of the FA Cup fourth round. For two of us, at least, there were some disappointing results, or one disappointing result. There was some really, really big upsets aside from that. What was your upset for the weekend there, Matt, do you think?
This is a tough one, man. I would love to say Palace over Tottenham, because it's always good. We can relate on that. We love seeing Tottenham lose. They had a dumpster fire of a week, knocked out of the League Cup, knocked out of the FA Cup. But I got to go AFC Wimbledon and West Ham.
Yes.
AFC Wimbledon 4, West Ham 2. We're talking the bottom of League One beating a Premier League side in the FA Cup, and that is why I love this competition.
So do I. And I watched this game, and it was, you know what, you wouldn't know who the Premier League side was watching this game. AFC Wimbledon, in their tiny, tiny little ground, really took it to West Ham.
Yeah.
Really took it to West Ham. Manuel Pellegrini was sitting on the sideline there, just not really knowing what to do.
Right.
Because he was not expecting such an attacking AFC Wimbledon side, and it was amazing. I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and the upset as well.
Yeah, it was good. And you got to say, I just got to point it out, West Ham did not field West Ham 2 lineup. They fielded a strong lineup. They had Mark Noble in there, Andy Carroll, Chicharito Hernandez started up top, Snodgrass is in there. They bring on Felipe Anderson, who's just been phenomenal this year for them, and they couldn't get it done, man. AFC Wimbledon just outplayed them and took it to them.
Yeah, and this is the joy of the FA Cup. You've got the big Premier League sides swaggering in, if you will, into these tiny little venues, thinking they're going to wander off with the cup, not realising or somehow forgetting from last year that these teams are up for the fight. This is their shot at glory, these guys, and they are going to battle every tackle, every shot, every pass, all the way. And you know what, Matt, I love it. I could wax lyrical about it.
Yep.
I just did, and it's amazing to watch.
So what about for you guys? What was the biggest upset for you guys?
Probably Millwall over Everton for me.
That was a great game.
I was also going to say Millwall over Everton, and specifically because my brother Mike, he's an Everton fan, and after I saw the result, I immediately texted my brother and said, Millwall, really? Just to give you an idea, Millwall is 19th in the championship right now, goal differential of -10. They're 7-8-13 on the season, so I mean, this is a team probably not going to get relegated from the championship, but they're pretty close to it. They haven't had the best year, but Everton is not Big Six, but close to the Big Six in a sense that they've never been relegated
Solid
before.
mid-table, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big team taken down by a team that's really struggling in the championship right now.
Yeah.
I want to say Millwall love the FA Cup. It's going to test my memory here. I think it might have been 2004, and they might have been the last non-Premier League side to figure in Europe, from the English leagues at least anyway, when they met Manchester United in the 2004 FA Cup final. They got into the Europa League, or I forget what it's called, the UEFA Cup back then, courtesy of this, well, runners-up, basically, from the FA Cup final. Fun fact. Also, fun fact for Millwall, their fans have a chant that says, nobody likes us and we don't care. So, Millwall has a bit of a history of being a bit of a rough club.
To me, the FA Cup is really a tournament that should have a lot of appeal to American fans, because if you think of the popularity of March Madness and the NCAA basketball tournament, this is pretty much England's version of March Madness.
Yep. I think that's solid. I think that's a solid analogy there, yeah.
Good comparison.
It's where you have the small clubs, you know, the David versus Goliath. Another team that I've actually been following that's well worth mentioning is Newport County. Newport County is a...
Isn't that where they make the cigarettes, Phil?
Yes, that's where they make the cigarettes. In Newport County, they're a League Two side. In the past rounds, you may remember they knocked off Leicester City in the third round. This round, in the fourth round, they came up against Middlesbrough, who's a top-end championship team. They're certainly in the promotion discussion in terms of the championship. They ended up in a 1-1 draw, and this 1-1 draw was scored on a 93rd minute goal by Matt Dolan. So it was either 3 or 4 minutes were added on, and 3 minutes into the stoppage time is when they managed to get the equalizing goal. Then that also was at Middlesbrough, so the replay coming up, they'll get to have that at home. So Newport County is a team to keep an eye on, because they've already knocked off one Premier League team and possibly could be knocking off a big club in Middlesbrough.
Yep.
Right. And you know what? I watched Barnet versus Brentford, and that was just a belt of a game. Oh, these guys played with passion. It was end-to-end stuff. Barnet went down. They scored 2 goals, and then all of a sudden, Brentford came back. Oh, it was just magic.
It reminded me of a playoff hockey game.
It was just an incredible game to watch. And, okay, yeah, these guys they played for the love of the game, and it showed. And I tell you what, it was just a joy. It was just a joy. It rekindles my love of football every time I see games like this. I want to have a chat now about Chelsea. Matt, you've had a couple of cup wins. Good for you.
Yep.
You beat Sheffield Wednesday during the FA Cup. It hasn't been so good for you in the league of late now, has it?
It has not. It has not.
What's happening there, mates? I feel like, and this is in my little intro there was a public dressing down. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically the coach or the manager coming out and going, you guys suck. And I get the feeling that maybe they've responded in kind and going, okay.
The game that came after that was obviously Tottenham in the League Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We went into that second leg down 1 goal. That second leg ended 2-1. We went through on penalties. Then we play the FA Cup game against Sheffield Wednesday at home. Do what we should have done against them.
Sure.
3-0, walk out of Stamford Bridge on our way to the 5th round. And then we travel to Bournemouth. It's a game that realistically we should win. Bournemouth is not contending this year.
Not for anything, really. I don't know if they're even in the race for that 7th.
They're about 8th or 9th.
Currently 10th. They're banging mid-table. There you go.
Yeah, they're a mid-table team. And I think the issue is we just play to the level of our competition, essentially.
Mm.
One big mention is Callum Wilson wasn't playing, so Bournemouth was without their best player, too.
Yeah, I think you could argue who their best player is.
Junior Stanislas is pretty good, yes.
Well, and you got Josh King, but I think by far their best player this year has been Nathan Ake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The central defender. But, we just didn't come out to play, man. We looked lost. I'm so over 80% possession and 0 goals.
Oh, mate, welcome to the Arsenal club.
After the game today, Sarri kicked all of his coaches out of the locker room and was in there for an hour with the players, with just him and the players. Were you the one that mentioned that to me?
Yeah, I didn't mention that to you, but that is what the reports are. Coming out of Bournemouth is that Sarri got all his support staff out of the locker room and spent 40 minutes to an hour, just him and the players, just having a conversation.
Oh, wow.
I saw reporters, pundits posting on Twitter that they've been waiting to talk to Sarri for 30, 40 minutes.
Yes.
They were saying the Bournemouth staff at the stadium started cleaning up the press room.
Probably a whole bunch of empty cigarette packs.
Turn the lights on and put the chairs up.
If he gets sacked at Chelsea, he'd be perfect for Newport County.
Maybe they get a sponsorship deal.
Phil, you laugh at that, Phil. You laugh about getting sacked, but it's that sort of performance that does get a manager sacked at Chelsea, isn't it, Matt?
You know what? I mean, so Chelsea managers have gotten sacked for less. But honestly, I just don't think it's a good... sacking a manager right now, especially at a club like Chelsea, I don't think it helps. We don't have the players to really play Sarri ball. We need to make some moves. It's like Arsenal with Emery.
Same problem that Arsenal has.
Yep. It absolutely is.
You got to make some moves. You're going to have to spend some money. I think the biggest issue I see is that for a lot of years, these players have seen managers come and go.
Right.
Because it's easier to get rid of a manager than it is to get rid of players. Players are the face of the organization. They're getting paid lots of money. You build teams around them, and managers are a lot more expendable.
Plus, it's $17 million to get rid of Arsene Wenger.
Well, yeah, but Roman Abramovich, who's the owner of Chelsea,
I thought he was the striker for the Galaxy.
I think he's starting to change that. I think we're seeing kind of the business model of Chelsea change a bit, but maybe that's for another podcast.
Interesting. So nothing against Bournemouth, however, because they were pretty relentless in the second half. They got a lead and they did not let go of that. They kind of toyed with your defense. Sorry, mate.
I mean, that's the thing, right? And I think that's the hard part is you're not going to win every football game. You're not going to win every football match.
Right.
But I just want to see fight.
Yeah.
And there was just no fight. We saw United go down 2 the day before to Burnley.
Right. Burnley scored 2 late goals and looked like they were going to walk off with it.
looked like they're going to
Yeah.
walk off. And then in the course of 5 minutes, United ties it up because they were fighting.
Right.
Yep.
And that's so as a Chelsea supporter, that's what irritates me.
Spurs today, too.
Spurs today as well, yeah.
Spurs have done that twice, actually. Once today and once against Fulham.
Well, Fulham, come on.
What did you say about Fulham?
I'll speak about Fulham shortly, but Matt has a point about not having any heart.
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing for me is we just don't, it doesn't appear that we have a leader. We miss John Terry.
I don't.
He was a leader. He was yelled. He directed. He inspired people. We don't have anyone teaching players coming in what it means to play for Chelsea, getting in a player's face. We need someone on the field to say, hey, we just let Bournemouth score an easy goal. We need to get our crap together and figure this out because we're Chelsea FC. And we just don't have that right now. And then this is what happens. Bournemouth 4, Chelsea 0.
You know, you're talking about heart. I wonder what it means for a team like Manchester United, who look like, for the first half of the season, look like how you're playing now.
Yeah.
They look disinterested, didn't want to be there. And all of a sudden, they're yelling and screaming because they've scraped a draw against Burnley, and the fans are up in the stands cheering like they've won this thing 8-0. It was the World Cup, and Manchester United won the lot. And where does that... I don't know how that manufactures itself. I don't know how that sort of manifests itself, I think is probably the better word. Sure, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, right? That guy, the new coach... He's put some passion into the game, but I don't think that's all of it, though. Like, what? How? How can you all of a sudden?
They just hate Jose Mourinho so much that they just want to prove that he was
toxic. Yeah,
Paul Pogba. He's the leader of that team, and I think that Paul Pogba has fire in his belly, to put it in Scott's words, to prove that Mourinho was the problem and not him. And I think that's where this comes from.
Could well be right. Could well be right. The way that he scored that penalty goal today and then raced into the back of the net, falling on his ass, by the way, in the mud to pick up the ball and then race it back out so they can kick it off again. I mean, that's something that wouldn't have happened under Jose Mourinho.
No. So it's just that fight, man. You need that fight.
Speaking of the fight, lads, we've got a bit of a fight on in the Premier League right now because there have been some upsets this round, haven't there?
Yes. Liverpool and Leicester drew today.
Yep.
If Liverpool had been able to win that game, what you're looking at is they would have gone 7 points up on Man City. With the draw, they're only up 5.
Yep.
If Liverpool had won today, it would have been a very tall mountain for Man City to climb.
They did draw against Leicester, who are having a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde season as well. They seem to be playing to the level of competition as well. But more to the point, Man City lost yesterday, so that was Tuesday, against relegation-bound Newcastle United. Admittedly, there was some luck that went against them, sure, but still.
I don't necessarily think Newcastle is going to get relegated, especially with Miguel Almiron coming in.
Yeah.
True, yeah, that's a big pickup for him.
Yes, and you can read more about the relegation-bound teams on our blog, acrossthepitch.com/blog, and you can see how I've been proven wrong and don't know anything about this game yet again, because also Fulham got this miraculous victory out of nowhere against Brighton. Brighton go 2-0 up at Craven Cottage, which is the home ground of Fulham, and Fulham then go and score 4 unanswered goals. And I don't know anything about this game anymore, lads.
That's just the Premier League. And in a sense, in America, with American football, we have a saying called any given Sunday. In the Premier League, it's any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given Wednesday. And it really seems like these midweek games, especially, these seem to be the ones where the upsets tend to happen. Maybe guys aren't in their normal rhythm.
Yep.
The other thing that we have now is with the FA Cup going on, the EFL Cup still going on, and a few teams still in it. You have teams that are playing a lot of games where some of these mid and lower level teams have already been eliminated from those competitions. For instance, Chelsea is still in both of them. They're playing a lot more games per week than Bournemouth is right now, and I think that has to factor into it. It's
Without a Without
much
doubt.
fatigue
Yep.
for some of these big teams, especially Chelsea and Tottenham and Manchester City, too. I mean, those teams are still playing in all of the leagues, including the Champions
Yes.
League, which starts again next week.
But you're right. I think fatigue is certainly a factor for the bigger clubs, and it is a leveler. These big clubs, they're there to get the glory, the TV cash. Ultimately, it is going to make the club suffer, and you're seeing that. Phil, you're 100% right. Yeah, those midweek games are the ones, especially those snowy ones as well, which we were treated to. I don't know whether you saw any of that Liverpool-Leicester match today. It looked like an ice rink.
Yeah, it was coming down.
I watched that whole one. I believe you guys were watching the Chelsea and Bournemouth.
Mhm.
I did actually watch the whole Liverpool game, and I joked around that it looked like the Buffalo Bills were getting ready to play.
Certainly did look a little bit, what do they call that thing? The polar vortex? Yes, I think it's probably affecting the UK right now as well.
There was either heavy rain or heavy snow in just about every game. And in London, even during the Arsenal game, it's not unusual to see snow in the north, but in London, you don't really see snow too much.
Not often. Not often. Having lived there 5 years, I think I saw snow twice. And I can tell you what, I miss my train because of it every bloody time. So thank you, Transport for London. Don't bother calling us for sponsorship. The other team I wanted to talk about, was Fulham. Now, I gave them a really, really rough write-up in my blog about the race to the bottom. You know what? I feel like Claudio Ranieri has made some clever signings, and all of a sudden they're more of a threat in front of goal, including a Callum. Welcome to the Callums Club, Phil.
We made a bit of an observation. If you've been watching English soccer for any bit of time, you probably have heard of quite a few Callums. If you're not a watcher of English soccer, then you've probably never heard the name before. If you're an American and you haven't spent much time in the UK, where evidently Callum is, I believe, the 34th most popular name in Scotland. I did find an interesting fact today that in spite of its popularity overseas, that there have only been about 12 to 1,300 people named Callum in the United States, going all the way back to the 1800s.
Well, that's a shame.
I believe that there's at least that many in the Premier League this year, right?
You might be right. Callum's a good Scottish name. It's a good Gaelic name. I've got a good Scottish name. Actually, no, it's not a good Scottish name. It's just awful to spell over here. So, but Callum, I don't know. How wrong can you go spelling that over here in America?
There's plenty of Callums to choose from, and no matter who your favorite team is, you probably got a Callum. For instance, if you're an Accrington Stanley fan, you have Callum Johnson. If you're a Bournemouth fan, you have Callum Wilson, who we mentioned before. If you're a Chelsea fan like Matt, then you're happy that Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to be staying with the club. Who are some of your favorite Callums?
I have to give a shout out to my mate Cal Fisher from Armidale, local legend, absolute top guy. How are you, mate? It's not an uncommon name overseas. It's kind of funny that you guys find that amusing.
I've never thought about my favorite Callum, but I'd probably say Callum Hudson-Odoi.
What about Callum Chambers? He's doing good stuff.
Yeah, he's playing a lot for Fulham this year.
Yep.
You know, he's been on loan there all season and hit a beauty of a goal.
Didn't he?
This past weekend, so that's always good for him.
Yeah.
Aston Villa midfielder Callum O'Hare has joined Carlisle United for the rest of the season.
That sounds like a spectacular move. Sorry, Callum. Sorry, Carlisle. Oh, dear. Oh, well, never mind. I suppose he's going to get some game time there.
We also have Callum McGregor, who scored for Celtic against St. Johnstone.
Yes, Callum McGregor.
I'm going to have a blog post all about Callums coming up this week, which you can find at acrossthepitch.blog.
Can't wait. I think I just saw a tumbleweed. Well, okay, cool. All right. Have fun. How about next week I do a story on Australian sports people named Steve? or Randy. I can tell you, that's going to be a short bloody list.
Isn't there a puppet, though?
Probably.
You didn't see the puppet? There's an Australian puppet named Randy. It's this purple puppet with no face.
Bet you he's probably got a filthy mouth, so I won't do a story on him. I feel like we're digressing somewhat, lads. So I was going to have a bit of a chat about loaning players out isn't necessarily all about getting money for the club. Quite often it's about letting your younger players get some game time. So that move from Callum O'Hare from Aston Villa down to Carlisle probably isn't such a bad thing for Callum nor Aston Villa, because quite often there just isn't enough space in the squad for Aston Villa, which is a relatively big club, to be able to give them regular game time. So they shunt them down to these leagues.
They already had another Callum.
All right. I want to have a bit of a chat to you guys about the race to the bottom, which is one of my blog posts, and how I was probably a little bit unfair on Fulham, because my player of the week was Alexander Mitrovic from Fulham, who is just this beast in the box. I don't know if you saw any of his goals, but he just flattens defenders. He's great. He's got one eye for one thing, and that is the ball in the goal.
His own or the other teams. In baseball, you talk about a guy who's a poor fielder and maybe a poor player of the outfield or a poor third baseman, but they're a good hitter. And the question is, does he knock in more than he lets in? And I don't know if Mitrovic knocks in more than he lets in.
Well, he certainly had a go at his fellow player, Babel. You know, they probably knocked each other out or tried to. I think they were trying to do some yoga therapy, these guys, and they end up getting into fisticuffs. It's all a bit dysfunctional. It's like the Simpsons on steroids down there at Fulham at the moment. But they seem to be actually looking more and more threatening, like they may just dig themselves out of that hole that they find themselves in.
As long as Kamara doesn't take any more penalty kicks.
Well, right. Yes, no, exactly. You're right. That geezer. Fulham is 19th, the second last. They're 17 points. They're not going to get last because Huddersfield is definitely propping up the table with 11 points. They're 2 points behind Cardiff City, but they are a good 6 points clear of Burnley. That's going to be a bit of a tough climb, I feel, for them.
I think Fulham's going to have a tough go at it.
Mm.
I think they're going to get relegated this year. I think it's going to be Fulham, Huddersfield, and then Cardiff.
Yeah.
I think the bottom three teams that we have right now are going to be bottom at the end of the season, and it just depends on what order they're going to go down to the championship.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm going to replace Cardiff with Burnley because they have a really tough schedule to close out the season.
They do.
They just haven't really shown an ability to score goals this year, where Cardiff, they've shown some scrap to me. I know that Burnley did have the draw against Manchester United yesterday, but I think that Burnley is going to be the third team relegated.
Yeah.
The Burnley-Cardiff game on the 13th of April will be a good indication of which one drops. I'm looking at Cardiff's got their last 4 games are Liverpool at home, Fulham away, Palace at home, and United away. So that's not an easy task. And Burnley's last 4 are Chelsea away, City away, Everton away, and Arsenal at home. So they got a tough schedule too. So it could be a fight.
Big news. I'm so excited about this. I think we can officially say the across the pitch curse is dead. Yeah!
Wait, explain why.
Well, our team of the month, Luton, are top of the table.
Yes.
They beat Portsmouth in not quite convincing fashion, but a win's a win, lads. A win's a win, and it was 2-1 against Portsmouth, and that sits them, I'm going to say, at least 3 points.
5 points ahead.
5 points clear.
62 to 57, isn't it?
Yes.
And I'm not even looking at that. Oh!
I tell you what, it's so good for us to have a team that actually wins when we support them. I do think we need to probably have a little bit more of a chat about the Hatters and their incredible run. They didn't get through in the FA Cup.
They lost Sheffield Wednesday.
Not a disgrace. Sheffield Wednesday, they're a league above them, but they did put in a good performance against them.
That was in a replay, too, because the first game was a 0-0 draw, and then the second game they lost 1-0, and the second game was at Sheffield, and I believe it was a relatively late goal. So, I mean, it was 0-0 between these two teams for well over 2 hours before Sheffield finally broke through in that second game.
Remarkable thing about that game is that, again, you wouldn't know. FA Cup tie, you wouldn't know who was the team that was higher in the league. So, for instance, Luton Town had 17 shots as opposed to the Owls, 13. They had 53% possession, Luton Town, 53%. These guys look like the ones that are actually going to go and challenge these guys next year. Wednesday, probably not having the best season.
Yeah, they're wishing it was Thursday by now.
I'd like to give Luton Town and their supporters a very fond farewell. It's been great having you on as our team of the month. We wish you well for the rest of the season. I hope you guys get promoted up into the championship places.
Yes, it'd be fun to watch them next year in the championship for sure.
Absolutely will be. That's a fairy tale.
Especially with the new ground coming, hopefully sooner than later.
Yes.
If you didn't get a chance to check it out, there was a Luton supporter who actually built a very impressive Lego model of Luton's ground. We posted that on our Facebook.
Was it life size?
It's the current ground, so it may have been close. We'll actually repost that because that was really impressive.
That's worth looking at, yes. All right, it's competition time, isn't it?
It is.
Is it? We'll give away some gear. What do we want to give away?
Magnets. Anybody want a magnet? I'll tell you what, here's what you need to do.
First person to legally change their name to Callum gets a free magnet.
We might want to make it a bit easier.
A trivia question.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's competition time. If you want to win yourself an across the pitch fridge magnet, here's what you need to do. You need to write on our Facebook page, facebook.com/acrossthepitch, who scored the very first Premier League goal. And of those winners, we'll be picking one randomly because you've all got Wikipedia and you're a bunch of cheats. But anyway, we love you. So go ahead, post away, and we'll send you a magnet.
You can also email us at contact@acrossthepitch.com. If you don't do Facebook, you can email us at contact@acrossthepitch.com. Tell us the player who scored the very first Premier League goal in 1992. We just want to make sure that we premise it as the modern Premier League.
Yes. Ooh, I don't know. I feel like that was going to trip a few people up. They were going to be smarty pantsers going, oh, it was Sir Henry Pickwick's back in 1882. No.
Callum old school.
God, Callum. Right, we have a question. Oh, wait, before we do that, please hit us up. Let us know who you think scored the very first Premier League goal. Phil, we have a question. A question from Cindy in Phoenix. What does Cindy write to us, Phil?
She writes, this is a question at the Phoenix local level. I'm a huge Phoenix Rising fan.
Yes.
Go PRFC! And also relatively new to the sport. My question is, Phoenix Rising have a huge, loud fan base, which I assumed was the norm. Is it? Out of all of the USL soccer club teams, we seem to be the proudest. I'd like to confirm my thoughts.
Lads, what do you think?
Aaron, you and I went out to the jersey release party last Saturday, and you can actually see
We did.
that whole thing was streamed live on Facebook. You can see the video. The Marquee Theater, the venue that it was at, holds 2,500 people. I want to say there was easily 2,000 people there. And this was just for all they were really doing was just showing the new jerseys for the season. 2,000 people showed up And this is 2,000 people singing, beating on drums in the building.
The drums. Some fool had a vuvuzela there.
Will remain nameless.
Phil.
Okay, I was the one with the vuvuzela.
I might have been the one honking on it.
Oh.
But I'll tell you what, it was like a rock star show. It was incredible. These guys came on stage in like not even the kids originally. Carl Wozniak came on stage in just some random punters like merchandise gear and got the biggest reception I think I've ever seen for a football player outside the Premier League. It was remarkable. They're fanatical. The Phoenix Rising fans are fanatical.
I got my season tickets.
And it was great to see. Go ahead, man.
Right. Go to a home game and it's the same way. I mean, this is a growing soccer market here in Phoenix, and the ownership group, the front office, the players, the supporters are really showing the MLS what they're missing by not being here, because they're showing up. When you're selling out a stadium that seats 7,000 plus in the middle of summer, kicking off at 8 o'clock at night when it's still 100 plus degrees outside, we have something special going on here. And no matter what the recent media has been over the recent U.S. soccer game, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but there's been a lot of stuff coming out how it was such a poor turnout for the U.S. men's national team.
10,000 people roughly that showed up for that. I mean, you had a preseason game, kind of, and not any of the top players were going to be there. It was against Panama, not
the second string MLS side, for God's sake. You know,
the ticket prices. I actually posted in the AO Phoenix group that I really wanted to go to this game, and at a Cardinals stadium with a 400 level, if they had had a $10 or $15 ticket option, I'd have bought a 400 level ticket and gone. I believe the cheapest tickets were around $37, which by the time you have tax and fees, you're spending $100 for two people just to walk in to see a preseason stripped down lineup.
It was nonsensical. Absolutely nonsensical. I did not understand that. Like, why would you? Yes, okay, fine. You're playing in a big stadium, hoping you're going to get some people turn up.
I think the thing is, amidst all of that, there was still 2,000 people at a jersey release the night before. And the day of, there were people wearing those jerseys at that game. So whatever the turnout was and whatever the reasons behind it, that doesn't matter. Phoenix is building something here with the Rising, and our fan base here is amazing. You have two great supporters groups in the Red Fury and the Banditos who stand and sing for 90 plus minutes, banging on drums, hitting the smoke bomb. People throughout the stadium that are singing with them, that are chanting.
You see more of the magnets and stickers. You can't drive around for 5
Oh, I love that.
For 5 minutes without seeing somebody that has a Rising sticker or a Rising magnet.
Can I tell you what I do when I see someone with a Phoenix Rising magnet on the back of their car and we're driving down the highway, they might be a little bit ahead of me? I will speed up and try and overtake them just so they can see mine on the back. And then I'll sit back a little bit and I'll try and give them a bit of a wave, try and catch their eye. Hey, I'm with you guys,
There you go.
Or across the pitch magnet right next to our Rising magnet on the back of our cars.
I think we've had a wonderful evening. Before we go tonight, I'd like to say a speedy recovery and good luck to Daryl Grove. Wish you all the best, mates.
Yes.
Absolutely. Daryl, get well, and we love your show. And like I said earlier, we wouldn't be here without the inspiration that you and Taylor have given us to start our own podcast.
Absolutely.
Did you have anything else, Matt?
No, I think maybe my parting words is obviously our thoughts and prayers are with Daryl. Hope you get better.
Join their scouting network. If you join their scouting network, then they'll assign you a player that you can follow and write into them about. And I'm going to be sending my report into them about Emil Smith-Rowe being loaned out today. $10 a month to join their scouting network, and it helps them to stay on the air 5 days a week. Would never have learned what I have about the game without Daryl and Taylor.
Absolutely. I'd like to say good night to Matt, good night to Phil.
And to my brother from down under, Aaron, and Matt.
Wait, I've got one back for you finally, Phil. My mate from State 48. Yes!
There you go.
It only took me 13 episodes, but here we are. Matt, you'll have to wait till I get to episode 26 before I find one for you.